Good morning. So we are going to cover lesson 25. Most important thing for you to do. I'm going to teach you the easiest way to calculate all of this, and that is by you using a calculator, specifically Desmos. It will do everything for you at the click of a button. So on your student iPad, you should have Desmos. If you prefer to use your phone, then download Desmos. It's free. So please do that first, pause the video, and push play when you have that out. So first things is that this is kind of a stats lesson, and there are two types of measurements, central tendency and dispersion, and I'm going to go over the difference. So central tendency it looks at where the center of your data is, right? That's why it says central. And for central tendency, we look for things like mean, median, and mode. Now those are easy. Those can be easily calculated by hand. They're also on Desmos except for mode. Mode does not need a calculator. Measures of dispersion have to do with how far apart or how spread out. So central tendency has to do with where the center of your data is. Dispersion is how spread out the data is. So for example, if we were looking at, the average, if we were looking at the heights of everybody in our class, that data is probably not going to be that spread out. If we had someone in here that was 7'4" and someone that was 4'11", it's pretty spread out. So dispersion is how close or how far apart data is. And two measures of dispersion are range and standard deviation. Now, some of these have symbols on specific calculators, so if you have a scientific calculator and you know how to use it, I'm just going to go ahead and quickly write. Only two of these have a symbol, but mean will often see X with the line above it, and for standard deviation, it looks like this. Those aren't the symbols on Desmos, but those are symbols you might see later on in this book. Now, we are going to calculate these by some of these we can do by hand or on Desmos. So I want to spend some time going over where you would find them in Desmos. So if you go to Desmos, you will then hit the functions button, which is FUNCS. It's abbreviated. And then you will click the stat tab. Okay, and I'm going to pull it up on my phone, but I believe it creates a really big glare on my phone. But I'm really going to try, sorry. If I go to Desmos, it should look like this if you go to download it. Sorry. And see, there is kind of a glare. So I'm going to start. So if you open Desmos, it has a graph. It'll graph everything in the world for you. But if we're going to be working on today, for example, if I wanted to find the mean, I would hit Functions, click on Stats, and notice you've got mean, median, min, max, and you've got two types of standard deviation. And I'll go over which one to use. But if I wanted to find the mean, notice parentheses come up, and I would list my numbers. I'm just entering random with decimals, and then notice it gives me, I have kind of a glare, and that's why it was going to be hard to show you, but it'll then give me the mean over here on my right hand corner. Really cool device. So we are going to use Desmos, so then you would choose either mean, median. It does have your min. We'll use that later, maximum. And then for standard deviation, there are two, and you're going to use the one that has a P next to it. So please, there are two of them, and you're going to use the one that has a P next to it. It'll also find our quartiles, which we will use later. So it will find several things for you. So I expect you to use that. You can use that on your test. That's fine, okay? So let's jump into our lesson practice. Which is on page 183, and have your Desmos app open, just like I do. All right, so in part A, it gave us our data, 4.5, 5, 5, 6.5, 7, 7, 7. Now, really important when you do this, if you're going to do this by hand or if you're really going to do this by hand, these numbers must be in numerical order. So first, let's find mean. Now, you can use Desmos. Remember the mean, we just add them all up. A quicker way to add these up, notice there are 3 7s, so instead of entering 7 plus 7 plus 7, I would enter plus 3 7s, or 3 times 7, right? And I would divide by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to find your answer. Now, if you don't want to do it by hand, let's go to Desmos, but again, it gives me a glare, so I'm going to assume it will give you a glare. I don't know if you can see this through the video, but I've hit mean. I'm going to do 4.5, list it with a comma, 5, 5, 6.5, 7, 7, 7, and I'll close out the parentheses. Notice I get a mean of 6. So my mean is 6. Median, I can enter all that again on my Desmos, or median means, does anybody remember? Means middle number. So here my middle number would be 6.5 because I have 1, 2, 3 on this side and 1, 2, 3 on that side. So my median is 6.5. Mode, you can have no mode. You can have one mode, you can have several modes, but it should be the number that appears or that occurs most often. You don't need Desmos for that. If I look at this list, there are 3 7s. There are more 7s than any other number. So my mode is 7. Okay? All right. B, my list is 2, 7, 8, 11, and 12. Now for this one, they've asked me to find my mean. They want the range, and they want our standard deviation, or the symbol for that is this little theta symbol. Now, for range, there is no, it's not on Desmos. Range is simply your maximum minus your minimum. So the highest number minus the smallest number. In this list, my largest number is 12, or my maximum, minus the smallest number, or my minimum, which is 2. So the range of my data is 10. Okay? For mean, I'm going to go ahead and use Desmos, but you can do it by hand. Whoops. In Desmos, use commas. 2 plus 7 plus 8 plus 11 plus 12 divided by 5, right? Or you can use the phone. It's whatever you think is easiest. Now, I think that adding them up with a calculator would be faster, but 2, 7, 8, 11, 12. If I use Desmos, I get 8. Now, if I was to ask you what the mode is, there is no mode, Just a review, there's no mode because nothing repeats itself. Everything's listed once. So standard deviation, it gives you a formula in the book, but no one uses the formula. Everyone does it with a calculator. Standard deviation is the average distance of your data from the mean. So it's how far apart. So 12 and 8 are 4 units apart. 11 and 8 are 3 units apart. 7 and 8 are 1 unit. 8 and 2 are 6. You would take those and you would find the average and square root. You're finding the average distance from the mean. Or you can simply use your calculator, or in this case, Desmos. So in Desmos, go to Functions, Stats. Remember, use the standard deviation that has a P next to it, and I'm going to list my data 2, 7, 8, 11, 12. And I get 3.52. So 3.52. Easy peasy. It means the average distance from the mean is 3.52 units. Easy peasy with a calculator. So use it. There's no need for you guys to do it by hand, especially when we're learning it digitally. Okay, you have a Desmos, use it. So part C, my data is 8, 9, 14, 15, 16, 17, 19, 21, and 25. Notice it's in numerical order from smallest to greatest. So part C, they want the range, the mean, and my standard deviation. I'm just going to write the symbol, or you can write standard deviation. P, that's what's on Desmos. Okay, and we're going to find all of them. So range is my maximum value. So here's my max. Here's my min. So 25 minus 8 leaves me with 17. Your mean is the sum of all the data. So you can use a calculator if you don't want to use Desmos. So 8 plus 9 plus 14 plus 15 plus 16 plus 17 plus 19 plus 21 plus 25 divided by how many there are? 4, 8, 9. 144 divided by 9, and I get 16. Okay? Standard deviation, I'm not going to do that by hand. It takes a very long time, and it's a very complicated. So I'm just going to come back to the last problem I entered on Desmos, and I'm going to hit the backspace, and I'm going to re-enter my new list. Okay, so using Desmos, I'm going to hit 8, 9, 14, 15, 16, 17, 19, 21, 25, and notice it gives it to you every time you enter a new number. I got 5.099, so 5.1. Part D. They would like us, here's the data, 4, 5, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 47. They want us to calculate based on the outlier. Now, an outlier is pretty self-explanatory, right? It's a number that doesn't belong. So in this case, right, 47 is my outlier. So they'd like us to calculate a bunch of data with the outlier. Sorry, this should be an I. And without the outlier. So I'm going to have data on both. And they asked us to find the mean, the median, the mode, the range, and standard deviation. And I'm going to do that for both lists. Okay? So you can use your calculator, up to you. So I'm going to do with outlier. So considering all of these, what is my mode? It's 5, right? And if I take out 57, my mode is 5. Okay, 5 still occurs the most often. Median, start from the outside and work your way in. So outside, 1 in, 1 in. Ooh, my middle number would be right in between here. That's with the outlier. So 5 plus 6 divided by 2 gives me 5.5. Now without the outlier, I'd start on the outside, outside, in, ooh, 5 is in the middle. So for a median, 5. That's how I find it, outside, and then use your fingers. And notice I have simply 5 in the middle. Now you could also use Desmos. I just don't feel like entering all the commas, so I think it's faster to do it without. Mean, so add them all up. 4 plus, there's 3 5, so 3 times 5. That's how you do it in a shortcut. That's why they created multiplication, by the way. There's 2 6s, so 2 times 6, plus 7, plus 47. And I'm going to divide by how many? 4, 8. Whoops, 85 divided by 8, I get 10.625. Now, I remember that it was 85 divided by 8. So I'm just going to take 85, and without outlier, I'm going to take off the 47. I now have 38 divided by 7. And without the outlier, my average is only 5.4. So notice the difference. That outlier really changed my mean. These are pretty close, right? 5.55, the mode is the same. Range, with the outlier, my maximum is 47 minus 4, so my range is 43. Without the outlier, if I cover up 47, my range is 7, take away 4, which is 3. Notice the difference, huge difference. Standard deviation, now that one, I'm going to use my calculator. So I'm going to go back, I'm using Desmos. I'm just editing the previous standard deviation. Remember, use the one with the P. And I'm going to enter my list. Now it's a lot easier for me to enter this 4, 5. You have to list all the 5s. You have to list all the 6s. List the 7, 47. And I got a standard deviation of 13.77. If I just delete the 47, I have a standard deviation of 0.90. So notice how much different our values are with and without. All right, so the next part of our notes has to do with box and whisker plot. And we're going to do 2. So the next part of our notes is box and whisker plot. Okay, and most people don't like it, but again, if you go to Desmos, so in Desmos, if you hit function and then you hit distribution, there's an option that says box plot. And then you would list your data. Okay, so make sure you list your numbers with commas. Okay, now I'm going to do it by hand because that's how I roll. So I want you to be able to do it by hand. So part E, here's my data, 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now a box and whisker plot looks like this. Sorry, something popped up on my computer. Where this is my box, and this side and this side are my whiskers. That's why it's called a box and whisker plot. It looks like a square version of a cat's nose and its whiskers. Okay, so that's where they're getting the name. So when I look for these, I have to find 3 quartiles. I need to find my maximum and my minimum. Those are the only things I need. So first I'm going to identify, here's my minimum, here's my maximum. Okay. Now my second quartile is equal to my median. So remember how I find the median? Start on the outside and work your way in. Notice, there we go. There is my median. So that is quartile 2. Now the other 2 quartiles is when I'm dividing my data up. So I'm going to put a line right through 3 like this. So I have a line through 3. I'm also putting a line through it because it is how I'm going to form my box. So if I cover up the right side, I have to split the data on the left into equal pieces. So if I cover up the median, I have 3 numbers. So if I had to divide it up, I would put the bar in the middle. And there's quartile 1. In order to find the third quartile, I would cover up the left side. Notice I have 3 pieces of data. So to divide that up, I'm going to put a line right through 5. Now if I take this marker away, there should be a pattern. A number, a line, a number, a line, a number, a line, a number. It should be equally and perfectly, quartile, divided. Now this is how you will draw. I'm going to draw a number line on the bottom. That number line only needs to include the data I have. So I'm going to put 3 in the middle, 4, 5, 6. This would be much easier with graph paper. 2, 1, 0. Now, I'm not going to touch. You draw nothing on the number line. Don't touch it. After you draw the number line, walk away. So above it, I'm going to start with my whisker. I'm going to draw a whisker at 1, where my minimum is. I'm going to draw a dot at 6, where my maximum is. Now, do you see these lines? We're going to draw those lines down here. So I should have a line at 2, at 3, and at 5. So the lines at 2, 3, 5 should be down here. 2, 3, 5. And now I'll connect it. Remember, the end goal is to look like this. So I'm going to connect this to form my box. Then I'm going to connect the box to the dot to form my whiskers. That is the answer. Okay, now there isn't another one in Desmos, so I'm going to do one with you so that you are able to, so we're going to skip F. I'm going to do another box and whisker plot with you. So this is another example. Let's make this our version of F. This is different from book, but this is so you have the ability to build a box and whisker plot. So here is my data. 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4, and 6. Now I don't need a calculator for these box and whisker plot problems, but remember, my goal needs to look like whiskers with a box in the middle. So this would be my minimum. This would be my maximum, right? Smallest number, largest number. Now let's find our median. So first thing I did is label min and max. Second thing, find median, which is quartile 2. So using your fingers, outside, inside, inside. Ooh, now if I kept going, notice I cover everything up. So my median is in between 3 and 4. So I'm going to draw a line. Now, what is in between 3 and 4? Now, you could add them up and divide by 2, or you could think, like if I had what is exactly in the middle, 3.5. That's quartile 2, or you could do 3 plus 4 divided by 2, which is 3.5. So, I'm going to cover up the right side. Okay, I covered up the 3.5. So if I cover this up, notice there's 4 numbers. So if I was to I had to divide this up. If I put the line over here, then I've got a number, a bar, and 2 numbers. That's not a pattern. But if I put a bar here, 2 numbers, bar, 2 numbers, bar. So it should have a pattern. So this is quartile 1, which would be 2.5, right? Halfway between 2 and 3. Cover up the left side. I have a bar, 2 numbers, bar, 2 numbers. So this would be quartile 3, 4 and 4, so it's just 4. So 2 numbers, bar, 2 numbers, bar, 2 numbers, bar, 2 numbers. Notice the pattern. So we can go ahead and do our box and whisker plot. Remember, draw the number line, but nothing should touch the number line. Do not draw on number line. Okay, so we only have to use our data. So let's say this is 4, 5, 6, 3, 2. We don't have to use anything but our data. So my minimum is 2, so there's a dot. My maximum is 6, dot. Let's draw our bars at the following values. 2.5 should be a bar, right? Bar at 2.5. There should be a bar at 3.5. There should be a bar at 4. It doesn't matter if your box looks funky, okay? Sometimes it's going to be big, small, in the middle, on the side. So I'm going to connect these to form my box, and then from the middle out to form my whiskers. See how nothing's on the number line? One more, because I want you to be able to do these beautifully. So this is not in the book. So here's my data, 20, 22. Notice I'm giving you the data every time in numerical order. If it's not in numerical order, you're going to have to list it. Okay, so first things first, we label our minimum and our maximum. The next thing we do is find our median. So start with your fingers outside, inside, inside, inside. There's a perfect number in the middle. So there is quartile 2. Remember, quartile 2 equals your median. Cover up the left side. I have 4 pieces of data, so I'm going to divide it right in between. So I have 2 numbers, bar, 2 numbers, bar. Okay? So this is quartile 1, which is just 22, right? Because in between 22 and 22 is 22. Quartile 2 is right at 29. Cover up the bottom. I have 4 numbers, so boom, bar, quartile 3. So notice 2 numbers, bar, 2 numbers, bar, 2 numbers, bar, 2 numbers. Okay? All right, so let's draw our number line. Now this one is slightly different, right? I have from 20 to 35. So I don't know, let's put 29 because I know I need 29. 29, so let's say this would be 31, 33, 35. This would be 27, 25, 23, bummer, 21, oh, I'm silly. Should probably make these closer together. There's 22, so you got these middle pieces. So mine are kind of spread out. I apologize. So here's min. Here would be 20. So there's my minimum. There's my maximum. I should have a bar at 22. I should have a bar at 29 and a bar at 32. Then I'm going to connect these. I have a really big box, but that's because I put my numbers so spread out. And then whisker to box. Notice my box is always 2 rows, and then that way this one's right in the middle. Okay? So that is lesson 25.